Hey guys, welcome into this segment from our full-length The Onside Kick podcast. In order to get the full podcast, go down to the description, go to Blog Talk Radio / The Onside Kick to download the full thing. Enjoy, everybody. But Mark, we're going to end the podcast looking at some overrated prospects. Some prospects that some people are really high on.
These are my favorite kind of prospects.
But no, we're not really that high on
Yeah.
it. For us, we each have our own, so whatever Mark says, don't automatically think I think he's overrated, because I know that's what the comment section does. But Mark, I'll kick it off to you. Who was your first overrated prospect?
The first one I want to say has a bit of the homer in me coming out here, and that's going to be Solomon Thomas.
Okay.
I love Solomon Thomas. I talked about him like crazy on this podcast for being such a crazy athlete. But he is not a top 5 pick. It's that simple. He is not a top 5 pick. There are better people available. He gets off basically on being that freak athlete, but there's a lot of freak athletes out there. He's not going to get past those bigger offensive linemen as easily in the NFL as he did in college. He probably shouldn't play interior, which is what he is best at. You know, he's just not going to translate as an interior lineman in the NFL, forcing him to go to the outside where he's not really that consistent at. I love Solomon Thomas. I think he's got a great amount of potential in the NFL, but he is, I know this isn't a boom or bust topic, but he's a total boom or bust player in the
He's
NFL.
either going to be really good or he's not going to do anything for you.
Exactly, and that's why I would not touch him in the top 5. I probably wouldn't grab him in the top 10.
Which is funny because I had him in the 3.0, BPA going number 4.
I probably had him in the top 10.
You had him 9 going to the Bengals.
Just barely squeaking his way in.
And it's one of those things, of course, it's not like, oh, well, I think he's overrated. He's automatically out of the top 10. Obviously,
I'm just saying that number 3 overall or something is not where he should be.
Because you've seen him mock to the Bears, and that's your home team, and you get kind of worked up for that.
Back off.
I can see where people say, like, oh, he might be overrated, but the only reason why I look at Solomon Thomas and could see that argument is because when we talked about this with the Jonathan Allen, Solomon Thomas, where Allen's the body of work, Alabama, he's been there, and he is an entire season. Solomon Thomas had a bowl game, and then everyone went, whoa, Solomon Thomas!
Yeah, right?
Holy crap, who's this guy? Wait, who's Stanford? Because basically that's what we did this year. I know people know what Stanford is. Cardinal fans, it's our Cardinal fan. It's a joke. But yeah, because I only have one. Cardinal fans, I should have said.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Cardinal fan. It's one
you're
guy.
Right.
Woo, go Cardinal. But really, it's one of those things where it's that one game. Got him off the block, and he's been riding the high ever since and just climbing and climbing and climbing. I'll say this. I don't think he's top 3.
No, not at all.
I will put him in the top 5, though, if Jacksonville goes with him. Jacksonville's that team.
I'll put him in the top 5 if a team picks him in the top 5.
Well, it's one of those, like, it's that thing where, boom, Jacksonville. I don't see the Bears going with him. I don't see the Niners going with him. But if Jacksonville decides, let's go with him, he's BPA, then he can be a top 5.
Well, then he was. I mean, that's a stupid argument. I'm sorry, Ricky, but I don't.
Definitely a top 10 pick.
Yeah, I would probably put him in the top 10. I just think it's squeaking his way in the top 10.
Do you think it would be a mistake if they took him at 4?
Yes, I do. I don't think he's going to translate as well as people expect unless he bulks up.
Okay.
Basically is what can happen.
I'll give you one. This one comes... actually, you know what? We'll play a game. Mark loves these games. You're going to have to guess...
Do I love these games? I kind of hate these games, actually.
You're going to have to guess my first overrated prospect. He's a wide receiver.
Zay Jones?
No.
Oh, that would have been my pick.
No. He's a first-round talent.
I'm going to guess Ross.
Nope.
Williams.
Yes, Mike Williams.
There you go.
And the reason why is I look at him and I go...
I was trying to pick the guys that we like on the podcast, that we talk about a lot, figuring that you go with one of those guys.
I'll be honest. If I have to pick between the two, I'm picking Corey Davis all day, every day.
Yeah.
And the reason why is, I mean, Williams is that guy where, I mean, it's just... I wasn't impressed with him this season. And yes, there are, like... He's got the body, he's got the build, but I feel like people have him rated too high. When people have him going number 5 to the Titans, that's way too high. You might be able to say the same about Corey Davis. However, one of those two are going to go number 5 to the Titans, either them or a cornerback, number 5 to the Titans. I would take Davis. It's just Williams to me is he's got the height and he's got the weight, but he drops the ball way too much for me. And usually a wide receiver that catches a bit of the dropsies, I am going to stay away from them because what's your main job as a wide receiver? To catch the ball and bring the ball down the field. I mean, yes, he did make a great play in the national championship game where he leaned over and Deshaun Watson didn't throw it in the right area and he helped him out. But I look at him and I go, if you are looking to lean on him to be your number 1, overall he might become that, but I'm not quite positive that I am that confident in him and would take Corey Davis.
And I think that's part of the problem for this draft class when it comes to the wide receivers. There's a lot of good wide receivers and a lot of wide receivers that will better your team, but you don't have that true number 1. You know, you don't have Julio Jones in this draft class, Antonio Brown, something like that, or A.J. Green. You don't have one of these guys who is going to instantly take that number 1 role and nothing's going to stop them. You have a lot of guys who will be a solid number 2, who will greatly improve the other wide receivers on the team, but you don't have that true number 1. That's kind of the issue for them.
And the one thing I'm looking at, a wide receiver, that's going to be that number 1 option. The one thing you have to do is if I need someone to take the ball deep, take the top off the defense, you got to help me out there. And one of his biggest besides drops, route running isn't the strongest with him, and when he does go on the seams, he gets, to me, the corners in college had an easy time kind of swaying him to the sideline. So basically, I'm going to get real analytical here. Now, I don't usually get this, but running, that cornerback kind of takes away that space, so you're running towards the sideline. That's near impossible for a quarterback to hit you unless you have a phenomenal quarterback. If college corners can do that, you're telling me a guy like Richard Sherman can't do that? Come on. You're telling me a guy like Morris Claiborne can't do that? A guy like even Darrelle Revis, who is kind of getting old and falling off, NFL corners will be able to do that. And it'll become one of those things where, you're going to go deep? I'm just going to get inside of you, muscle you to the sideline. Boom, you're neutralized. You ain't going to do nothing, kid.
Yeah, I think that's kind of... it's going to be hard probably for us to guess who that first quarterback is. And we've agreed that it's Corey Davis. But a lot of other people disagree. That's why probably the guy who makes me most excited is John Ross.
He's quick.
He's fast.
He is so, and that's the thing, wide receiver-wise, speed kills. I will take, at the wide receiver position... Unless it's like he's got stone hands, I will take a quick wide receiver.
And at the very least, maybe you can use him in the punt return game, kick return game, and that makes you happy.
Look at Devin Hester. He had stone hands, but for a while people didn't understand, I can punt it out of bounds.
Right.
They actually punted it to him and then continued to punt it to him.
Any possible time that they did punt to him, you hear the commentators go, yeah, you never punt to Devin Hester. That's why you don't punt to him.
Apparently, they did not get the memo.
Yeah. To talk about more guys who are kind of a little bit overrated. I don't know if he's not necessarily overrated, I guess, anymore because people have fallen off on him. And I was crazy about Jabril Peppers to begin with, but Jabril Peppers...
He has fallen. He was number 3 in my first mock draft. Remember my 1.0 when he went to the Bears at number 3?
I do.
Or number 4?
I think I might have had him at 4 or 6 or something like that. I don't know. I had him up there too. Or not 6. That wouldn't have made sense. But anyways, he's a guy who's fallen off quite a bit, but he is another one of the guys who falls into that boom or bust category of, will you be the team that figures out what to do with him is really what it comes down to. If a team drafts him with an idea of we're going to turn him into a linebacker, or we're really going to develop him and make him into that safety, whatever it might be. But you have to put that work into it. So if a team drafts him expecting him to fill some need that they have right now, that's not going to work, and that's going to fail on them. So, is he overrated now? Probably not. I think the world's fallen off on him, but at one time he certainly was overrated. And he, depending on the way the draft goes, if these safeties start going, he might creep his way back up into the first round. Possibly even into the mid-early 20s here, and that might be a very bad thing for him.
Yeah, and I mean, the thing with him that I look at, and the big thing I don't like about him, and I do like a lot about him, I like how he kind of played that linebacker safety, that star position. Yeah. Kind of like I compared him early to like what Earl Thomas does for the Seahawks. Earl Thomas.
Kam Chancellor.
Kam Chancellor, that's who I was thinking of. For the Seahawks, kind of that safety who can come up, play at the line, boom, get that running back when he comes out. But when you even look at him tackle, he's not a guy that's going to wrap up. He's going to go for the hit rather than the wrap up. And I look at it and I go, you're not Kam Chancellor. You are 5'11". You're 5'11", 213. That's not like, that is not to me a hard hitting safety.
Not at all.
Like,
no.
You got to change your game, but you got to wrap up a little more. Like I look at Kam Chancellor, 6'3", 225. I even look at, I'm going to look up really quick just to make sure how, like, the exact thing, but like, to me, one of the hardest hitting safeties are like defensive backs in a college that I've ever seen. Taylor Mays, 6'4", 240.
Yeah.
Got a little beef, got a little height on that kid, got a bigger body. Jabril Peppers, you're not that heavy hitter kind of a guy. Don't go for the hit, go for the wrap up and get the guy down. I'm going to throw out another one for you. This guy, it's funny, you're going defense, I'm going offense, and this is a guy that I've heard, I know Dave, if he's watching, is probably going to jump out of his chair and want to strangle me. Joe Mixon. I think Joe Mixon's overrated.
I have been saying that since the first time we talked about Joe Mixon.
And I don't even think it's one of those things where, domestic issues aside, he's a guy to me that hasn't, he's had some good runs, but he's not anything super explosive to me. He's a guy that, against an NFL defense and one of those NFL lines, he'll dance around the backfield, won't know where to go, boom, get tackled.
There's a big drop-off between your Fournette, McCaffrey, Cook, from all these guys, and then Joe Mixon. Another guy who's probably overrated is Foreman, but I would even put Foreman over him.
And when I see, and I'm looking right now, the one thing I will take straight from the NFL draft scouting report, when I see something like vision is average, good luck in the NFL. Yeah. Adrian Peterson has, to me, above average vision, and he even has a hard time when you stack the box in the NFL. Unless it was that MVP ridiculous season where it didn't matter how many you put in there. But yeah, I just see him and I go, you know what? Yeah, he's one of those guys. Is he a good athlete and he's a good talent? Yes. But if I'm early second, I'm not taking him in the early second. Like, no. That's the one thing. Like, I've seen some people go, oh, well, Joe Mixon, he could have been, if it wasn't for the domestic issue, he would have been a first rounder. Get out of here.
No,
I'll take Fournette. I'll take McCaffrey. I'll take Dalvin Cook way above Joe Mixon.
I don't want to say, because people will misinterpret this, but I don't want to say that this domestic violence issue kind of helped his draft stock.
He'd be in the conversation for a first rounder if it didn't.
No,
that's not what I think.
That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying that the only reason most people know his name is because of the domestic violence. Because nobody talked about him until it resurfaced, and all of a sudden that became the conversation. The conversation was how he wasn't invited to the combine. And then the conversation was, is it going to hurt his draft stock? When we initially talked about it, I said this guy is third, fourth round. Why are we talking about him? I literally said something of that extent on the podcast.
I remember that because it was me, you, and Brandon for that first one. We talked Joe Mixon.
Yeah, and it was like, why is this guy even being talked about? He's not really that worthwhile. Now, of course, we probably, at that time, people were exaggerating. He's going to follow the entire draft, and that's certainly not going to happen. But, there's no reason for him to be even, I don't think he's worth talking about in the second round. I don't think he's that talented.
Let's put it this way.
Not for the NFL, at least.
The last thing I will say about him before maybe if you have one more, is what conference did he play in college? The Big 12. What's the Big 12 not known for? Defenses.
Yeah.
It's easy to look good when the opposing team, like when everyone's all about offense, and the defenses are just so in the Big 12. I think he's overrated. I would agree with you. Third round at the most. I'm not thinking about him until I get to that third round. But
I'm sure someone will probably reach.
Someone would probably reach. I want to say that I've heard a few, and I want to say Dave's one of them, but I don't want to misquote him, that early second even is where Joe Mixon can go. I wouldn't touch him in the early second.
No.
Do you have one more?
Well, the other guy, I mean, I struggled on thinking about Malik McDowell just because I think he's a little inconsistent. But yeah, man, that upside is pretty damn great. The obvious one is Mitch Trubisky. I mean, he's overrated because he's being talked about at number 1 overall. Hell no. I think he needed to go back to college, but that's neither here nor there anymore because it's too late for that. I would take Deshaun Watson as the number 1 quarterback. Personally, I don't think that really many of these quarterbacks are that worthwhile. If I had my perfect scenario, Deshaun Watson would be the only quarterback taken in the first round. I think he's the only one who can start day 1, is basically what it comes down to. Any of these other guys need some time. They're going to get thrown to the fire, and they're going to fail.
I'm going to be completely honest. Mark hit a third one. I do not. And, I mean, with Mitch Trubisky, I can see the overratedness only for the fact of if he's, like we talked about earlier, to bring everything full circle, if he was going to be the one that you said number 1 overall pick, no, overrated.
Yeah.
He is overrated if you're going to draft him number 1. If you're going to draft him mid first round, I'd say, okay, maybe that's where I'd start thinking about him. 6 is a little bit of a reach, but the Jets are going to do what the Jets do.
If you want him to start day 1, it's not probably going to work out for you that well. Could be a surprise. It could be a surprise in that all of us are harping a little bit too much on the inexperience. But who knows?
I know what people are going to do, Mark. They are going to bookmark this video.
Yep, they'll be back.
About 5 years down the line when these players are actually good. They'll come and chat our way.
At the same time, if you don't, and all these players, and we're right, they're all terrible. Nobody's going to comment on this video again.
No one's going to comment on it ever again, and we will be the
ones.
We'll
comment on it, and no one will respond to us.
Yeah, no one will be responding.
But that probably won't happen.
Be right. Yeah,
we'll probably be 100% wrong.
Knowing me, I'm wrong about one of the guys I said, either Mixon or Williams. Probably, if I had to put my money on it, I would put my money on Williams, maybe proving me wrong more than Joe Mixon. But this is where you guys come in. Let us know down below what you guys think. Who are your overrated prospects? And what do you think of the guys that we talked about? I want to thank you guys for checking out the Onside Kick. If you're on YouTube, thank you for watching. If you're on Blog Talk Radio, thank you for giving us the download and listen. Check us out on Patreon, patreon.com/Most Valuable Podcast. Want to thank you guys for watching and listening. And as always, have a good day, everybody. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that segment from the Onside Kick. If you think the fun stops there, you're wrong, because click the video right over here. What are you thinking? Come on. Click it. It's going to go away. It's going to go away. Bye, everybody.